Welcome to the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast. I'm Joy Taylor. You can catch us Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific on FS1. Here's what this podcast is all about. It's an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the day's show, and there is a lot to get into in today's podcast. How about them Cowboys? Skip reacts to the news and calls a title for Dallas next year with the big news that Tony Romo will be released today. Shannon channels his inner Rob Parker and claims no KD, no jewelry for the Golden State Warriors. LA native and rap legend Ice Cube comes to the desk to talk about his Lakers, his Raiders, possible relocation to Las Vegas, and he even chimes in on the Remy Ma and Nicki Minaj beef. Hashtag free Remy. Fox Sports NBA analyst Chris Broussard not only breaks down the fashion difference between Westbrook and Kawhi Leonard's cornrows, but also tells you it's still Harden as the NBA MVP. Finally, Mr. Buckeye himself, our man Chris Carter, tells you why he's with Skip and why his expectations for the Cowboys next year are maybe as high as they've ever been. It's a good day for you, Skip.
I gotta hug you. You just
gotta
hug
me?
you.
Oh,
yes.
hugs in the morning?
I don't want to fist bump. I want to shake your hand. I want to shake your hand. I'm so happy.
It's a good day for you, Skip.
I'm so happy.
I'm very happy for you.
So which are you happier about? The Spurs coming back from 28
It's
or
that.
the Cowboys?
Only that. Only the 28-point comeback. That's all. Stop it.
I don't know about that. I was very happy for you yesterday,
Thank
Skip.
you.
I thought of you when the news came down.
Whew.
And let's get into it. Let's talk
Let's
about
do
it.
it.
Coming up later in the show, Ice Cube will be here live in studio.
Yeah.
Let's get it started with the San Antonio news. No, the Dallas news.
Yes.
Tony Romo will be reportedly released today by the Cowboys. Sources say Jerry Jones informed Romo of the decision in a conversation on Tuesday. Jones allegedly told Romo that he waited to see if another team offered the Cowboys something in a trade, then decided to release him when a trade didn't happen. Romo has played 14 seasons in Dallas and is the franchise leader in passing yards and touchdown passes. So, Skip, what is your reaction?
You ain't gonna do it?
I don't know.
You ain't gonna do it, Skip?
Say.
No, you can. You know what you can say? Do it.
There's really nothing left to say except, how about them Cowboys?
Yeah. I like
How
it.
about that Jerry Jones? You know what? Guess what just happened? Jerry Jones just won his first Super Bowl in the last 22 years. I am ready to make an early Super Bowl prediction. My Dallas Cowboys just beat Tom Brady and the Patriots in Super Bowl 52 in Minneapolis. I'm going to go on record already. I know it's early, but I am going on record because Shannon Sharpe, you were right all along, as was Chris Carter. You kept telling me it's going to be okay, that Jerry Jones will never be foolish enough to hang on to Tony Romo. And you were so right yesterday. You were the first person I thought of yesterday. Thank you very much. And I want to thank Jerry Jones for swallowing his bigger than Texas pride and his bigger than Texas ego and finally cutting bait with a quarterback that he considers and loves like a son, as you call him, Tony Romo Jones, a quarterback that I believe Jerry still believes in his heart of hearts is fully capable of still winning a Super Bowl. And I want to thank Jerry Jones for completely buying into Dak Prescott the way I bought into him, as you know, from early in the year, if not in the preseason, because that's what Jerry just told you. I buy completely into this kid. And I want to thank Jerry Jones for clearing a little bit of cap space and a whole lot of the decks of the Dallas Cowboys in the locker room and in the huddle for Dak Prescott to become the star quarterback I think he is destined and driven to become. And now there will be no threat of Tony Romo looking over Dak's shoulder or right there ready to replace him after one below average game or even one below average half. And I appreciate Jerry Jones for doing that. And finally, a defense that did rank 5th in points allowed, which is not all that bad, can be upgraded through free agency. And by the way, I wouldn't mind the Cowboys signing Darrelle Revis. That's just me, Darrelle at safety. I'm going to throw that out there, but there are a lot of mid-priced free agents that they can now make a run at. Maybe a pass rusher, maybe a corner, maybe anybody who can shore up the defense that is mostly Rod Marinelli getting his defense to overachieve.
You need a safety now because the church is out.
The church has gone to Jacksonville. So, again, Darrelle could step in. I'm not saying he's even an every down safety, but he could help, even as a mentor to the safeties that they're going to have. But in the end, the draft is deep. and corners and pass rushers. Now, I don't know which will fall to them at 28 or if they could move up a little bit to snatch one who was falling. But now the decks are cleared for all to get better, including Dak, including the defense, including me on Undisputed. And I am now ready to shout it across America. America's team will win next year's Super Bowl. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Joy. The show is yours. I'm done.
Skip, I always thought this was going to be the end result because once you saw Dak Prescott and how well he played, the longer that it went, you realized this was not a streak of luck. This wasn't a hot streak that this young man can sincerely play. And so I was like, no, there's no way. And listening to Jerry talk, Jerry is a salesman. You said he's the greatest salesman, great businessman.
Super salesman.
He was trying to drum up some trade because he had invested a lot of money in Tony Romo. And to see that investment all of a sudden walk out the door, it's almost like, Skip, you've paid, $25 million on a home, and all of a sudden you can't pay the taxes on it and you lose it. So all the money that you've invested in it walks out of the door.
Or you just walk away from your home like a lot of people have had to do.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then you sit back, and even if you step back even further, okay, Jerry Jones is a businessman. Jerry Jones is a billionaire. What billionaire what businessman would buy something, could get something for $560,000, but chooses to pay $19 million? And that's what the difference is in salary. Dak Prescott's salary is $560,000. Tony Romo's salary would have been guaranteed at $19 million.
Yep.
It made no sense. Remember, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. This made no sense, and this wasn't going to make him dollars. I know Jerry said, yeah, we can fit it up under the cap, but Jerry was never going to do that. He was trying to sell. But Skip, here's the problem that he had. He had a broken down rocking chair, and I saw you get new furniture. I'm just going to wait until you sit this rocking chair side the curb, and I'm going to come pick it up. And that's what the teams did. They knew he wasn't going back to Tony Romo. So why am I going to even give you a 7th round draft pick when I know you're going to release him?
Unless you wanted exclusive negotiating rights with Tony Romo for a 7th rounder, where he could be yours to deal with.
At the end of the day, Tony Romo is going to go to the best situation for him. And we're going to discuss that later.
We will.
But I've always thought that this was the situation that was going to happen, because now Jerry can go get him a pass rusher. He needs a pass rusher. He needs a corner. He can get him a safety. Skip, this is the Seattle Seahawks in reverse. Russell Wilson comes in.
Yep.
He outperforms the guy that they gave Matt Flynn $10 million guaranteed. He beat him out for the job. So now you've identified and found your quarterback, and you have him on a rookie contract for 3 to 4 years. Zeke is tied up. Dez Bryant is tied up. You've tied up all your offensive linemen.
Yep.
So now your undivided attention can go to the defensive side of the football where you've been lacking. Go get you a pass rusher. You're probably going to have to overspend, Skip, but in free agency, you always have to overspend, because if you don't, why would the guy leave a situation where he's comfortable in?
I agree.
He knows what to expect, so you have to overpay. Go get you a pass rusher. Go get you a corner. Hey, like you said, the draft is very, very deep in pass rusher. I think the corner situation is very deep.
Yep.
But you can go in free agency, and what you don't get in free agency, you can address in the draft. But this was the right decision for the Cowboys, and I never thought for a second that Jerry Jones was going to keep Tony Romo, although he said Tony can make those kind of plays. He can, but he can't make him here for $19+ million.
I hear you. And bottom line, they had Josh McCown in for a visit, and I would be extremely happy if they could sign Josh McCown as the backup to Dak Prescott, because Josh McCown is a good man and a pretty good football player, and he will act and serve as a good mentor to Dak, who needs to continue to grow, obviously. And Josh McCown, to me, has proven to be much better than a Matt Castle or a Brandon Weeden, right? Where you could throw him in, because we saw what he did.
4, 5, 6 games in Chicago.
Or even for Cleveland, when he gets in, he will compete, man. So I would be very content with that 1-2 punch at quarterback.
Yes, I would.
So we know that Romo's leaving. Let's talk a little bit about his health. Tony Romo only played in 1 game this season after injuring his back in the preseason. In the past 2 seasons, Romo has played in just 5 games because of injuries, and he'll be 37 next month. Skip, what does Romo have left?
I'm going to give Tony Romo a 25% shot of staying relatively healthy for all 16 or 17 or 18 or however many games.
You going that high?
25% shot. And to me, it's a big enough shot that I would take a shot if I were not sold on my quarterback. And I still don't think John Elway is sold on either of his young quarterbacks. I'm pretty sure Houston is not sold on Brock Osweiler. I know the Jets are not sold on any quarterback in their locker room, and I'd say those three are still potential landing spots, especially if Romo can't make a deal with Denver or Houston, that the Jets would still come into play here.
Right.
But I'm going to remind you, remember in 2014, he did manage to stay relatively healthy. It wasn't until week 8 in 2014 that he had a minor back issue against Washington on Monday night. I don't know if you remember this game, but they ended up losing in overtime with Brandon Weeden at quarterback. Romo came back after a third quarter injury and tried to play the last series of regulation and was pretty shaky, but he only missed the Arizona game at home the next week, which they lost 28-17. But then he came back and they rolled home. I think they went 6-1 down the stretch. And then, of course, he won 2 playoff games because he beat Detroit. No, he won 2 because then he went to Green Bay. And we all know that was a catch. Even this man knows in his heart of hearts it was a catch. And they won the game even though it got stolen from him on the scoreboard. But whatever. But he played well enough to win 2 playoff games, even though I'll admit they stole the first one against Detroit. But that's all another issue.
Okay.
So it was maybe 50-50, you know.
So they're still 1-1.
All right. But he did make it through that year and through 2 playoff games standing, okay? Mostly standing. Then in 2015, I remind you, he starts off with a big, loud bang against Eli. Remember, it's a big, I think it was a Sunday night football game at home. Clutched up at the end, hit Jason Witten with the winning touchdown pass, 27-26. Off to the races, plays very well at Philly. They're rolling at Philly, and you know the rest of the story. He gets hurt. Brandon Weeden has to come in and close the deal, but it was okay. It was already closed, basically. And then he came back for the game at Miami and played very well at Miami. And then on Thanksgiving, it was the all-time disaster. 3 interceptions, 2 pick sixes, and he got hurt on top of it. And that was basically the last we've seen of Romo, except that little flash, that little sizzle reel at Philly in the final regular season game this year. So my point is, he is still a really good football player if he can stay even relatively healthy. And I would give him a shot because he has only played 5. You can do plus or minus on this, glass half full or half empty, but he has only played 5 games in 2 years. So you want to talk about fresh? You want to talk about the ability to completely heal up whatever those injuries are? I think he's completely healed. Does that mean he's not brittle? Nope, he's still brittle, because my one big issue, and it's always been my biggest issue with Tony Romo, no workout warrior. He will not buy into, say, the Brady method of getting and staying in peak shape, injury avoiding shape, because Brady, through I don't know if he does yoga or Pilates or whatever stretching or whatever core exercises he does, he's beating father time in the system. And Romo, from what I'm told, will not commit to that kind of a program. That he's into his family, which is great by me.
And I believe Tom Brady's into his family.
Well, I agree, but Brady is really into eating to win, right? Eating to win and fitness, like supreme fitness at age 40 that Romo could get in and stay in at age going on 37. I just don't know that he's done that, and he does tend to get a little chunky early in seasons, and sometimes that can help.
We saw that picture this summer.
I know. He could get a little chunky, and sometimes that can be good. Like, it gives you a little extra padding to take the hits, but somehow he's not been able to withstand that many hits.
Well, I don't know how many times he in a boxer, so he ain't going to get punched in the stomach, so he don't really need that stomach, Skip. Skip, you know what? I compare Tony Romo to a person being eulogized, because no matter what he's done to himself or someone else in life, we'll nitpick the best parts of his life and highlight that. Because when you talked about Tony Romo, what did he do? You automatically went back to 2014. 2015 happened. 2016 happened. So did 2012, 2013, 2008, and 9. And that's what we're doing. We're going back and we're highlighting the career year that Tony Romo had and says, okay, he can do it again. But what makes people think that he can do for them what he couldn't do for the Cowboys? Now, remind you now, he did have, in 2014, he had DeMarco Murray, who rushed the ball for 1,848 yards. He was Offensive Player of the Year. He had Dez Bryant, in his prime. He had Witten, who was in his prime.
He was.
And even if you go back a little further, you remember when he had Marion the Barbarian, Felix Jones. He had Miles Austin, who was a Pro Bowl receiver. He had
I thought Tony helped make him a Pro Bowl receiver, but go ahead.
But he didn't have it.
Yeah.
He had Jason Witten, who was an All-Pro and a Pro Bowl tight end. So don't make it seem like Tony, all of a sudden, that Dak Prescott had way more weapons. Don't make it seem like Tony Romo hasn't had weapons, because he has.
I'll buy that.
But at the end of the day, he's going to be a 37-year-old, a quarterback that's had 3 broken collarbones, a quarterback that's had 3 injuries to his back, 2 that have required surgery.
Yep.
And in the last 2 years, he's played 5 of a possible 32 games. And the last 3 times we've seen him take a hit, they've had to come get him. That's what we know. Now, we can do all this if he can stay healthy, if we can do this. These are not ifs. These are facts. He hasn't played a full season in over 3 years. He's brittle. He could be another Andrew Bogut. They signed Bogut for the remainder of the season, and like the movie, he was gone in 60 seconds. You keep hoping that Tony Romo, he can do it. But if he can, you're looking at, Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning had a proven track record. He was a 4-time league MVP.
I agree.
He had gone to 2 Super Bowls. Take Brett Favre.
But I think most people considered Peyton at that moment an even higher injury risk than Tony is right now.
But here's the thing about Peyton. Peyton had the 1 season injury. He didn't miss any injuries missing games because of back. He didn't miss anything because of knee. You look at Brady. Brady had the 1 injury, knocked him out for the season, but he's never missed a game because of an ankle, because of a shoulder, or anything else.
No, I agree.
So you look at Brett Favre, a guy that later in his career left Green Bay and ended up at Minnesota. But he was an MVP, proven, 2 Super Bowls. Kurt Warner, proven. What has Tony Romo proven? We always have to go back in any time that I have to reference a particular year. When I talk about Peyton Manning, I see greatness. When I talk about Tom Brady, I don't go back to 2007. I don't go back to 2011. You just say Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. But when you talk about Tony Romo, we always have to go back to that one shining moment. And that's why I compared it to somebody being eulogized. Because no matter what that person has done to himself or others in his life, we will cherry pick the greatest moments and say, he was a great man.
Yep.
He just got into a shootout with the police and killed 2 and he got killed, but he was a great person. Tony Romo, he's going to be so good, but he's had 1 season. He's had 1 season. So what makes, let's just say, the Broncos or Houston or the Jets, because it looks like Mike Glennon is going to Chicago, Tyrod Taylor re-signed in Buffalo, Brian Hoyer signed with the 49ers, so now it looks like San Francisco is out of the mix, and Washington, because it looks like Kirk Cousins is going to stay in Washington. So with that being said, now he's down to probably 2 or 3 teams, Skip. He wants to go somewhere that's very talented offense. Houston has some offensive playmakers, DeAndre Hopkins. They got Fuller the fifth. They got Braxton Miller.
They do.
So they got the Broncos, Emmanuel Sanders, Demaryius Thomas. Now, they do have a rookie head coach, so I'm sure that will weigh some. But John Elway will trump that because he's played quarterback in this league at an old age. He's won in this league at an old age. So, but Skip, for me...
So are you saying you would just... No way you would even take any shot on Tony Romo?
The shot, he's going to call somebody to have a shot of alcohol at a bar.
Okay.
Because I don't believe he can stay healthy at this juncture of his career. And as you commented earlier, the difference between he and Brady and some of the other quarterbacks, Tom Brady looks at it like this. Yes, he has kids, and you have to buy stuff for the kids to eat, and they want a snack. Okay, I get all that. But Tom Brady says, my performance and my health is more important to me than food tastes good. See, that's what I tell people. Well, how do you do it, Shannon? I say, because my physical fitness and my appearance feels better to me than food tastes. Tony's not there yet.
It doesn't appear, unless I'm missing something here, unless he's changed in the last month or two, but I don't think so.
Skip, you can get the body stronger. You can get it to withstand more stress. You can make the body faster. You can't make it younger.
Okay, but you just mentioned Mike Glennon got, I think it was $15 million.
14.5.
Okay, to be the Bears' starting quarterback, and you're telling me that even with this track record, which is it's pretty sensational with no exclamation points in the playoffs, but it's pretty high. Like he led the NFL in QBR in 2014. So you wouldn't give him incentive-based, performance-driven deal just to take a shot where
Yeah.
there's no risk on your part?
The way I would do it, Skip, I would give him a Greg Hardy type deal.
Yeah.
Every game that he is active, he
Yeah.
can get $250,000.
Okay.
See, I can't give
I'd
him
do
that
it.
big. I can't give him 13, 15 million guaranteed.
Right.
Because the likelihood of him playing all 16 games aren't very good.
Well, he hasn't played a 16-game season since 2012, so there you go. Skip's going to talk more about Tony Romo and the Cowboys on his Facebook Live today at 6:30 Eastern, so check that out. No mercy. Today, it's the quarterfinals of the Big East tournament. Here's Villanova warming up at Madison Square Garden. 4 games from MSG today, starting with Villanova St. John's. Next, here on FS1. Tony Romo will reportedly be released today by the Cowboys. Sources say Jerry Jones informed Romo of the decision in a conversation on Tuesday. The Romo news clears the way for Dak Prescott, who won Offensive Rookie of the Year and helped lead the Cowboys to the best record in the NFC last season, before losing to the Packers in the playoffs. We're joined now by Chris Carter. Good morning, Chris. Welcome.
Good morning.
Chris, what do you expect from the Cowboys next year?
I have great expectations, and the reason why, they gave me a little glimpse of how talented, especially the younger players are. We know the continuity in the offensive line. It can't be understated. It's the most important unit collectively in the National Football League. Offensive line. And they're only going to get better. We saw Zeke preseason and the first couple games of the season starting slowly to get used to what the NFL's about. Then he caught fire. That's not going to change. Jason Witten is still going to be very productive. I still think they need one other offensive weapon as far as a receiver. If they lose one of the receivers, they're going to add someone else. I believe Dez is going to be healthy longer, so that chemistry with Dak develops through the offseason, leads into next season. They need a pass rusher, and they need another cover corner guy, because they can win 10, 11 games with the team they have now without adding anyone else.
That's true.
They can win their division, and that's saying something. Double-digit wins.
Yes.
They add a good pass rusher. I don't like depending on guys like Randy Gregory, even though I'm empathetic to his story, but sitting around waiting on guys, if they're going to pass the drug test, being suspended, are they going to be available? I'm not in love with it. You haven't seen guys be very, very productive after they've been suspended. Once they get into the drug program and get suspended, you don't see them come back. Von Miller is one of the exceptions.
He is.
All right? L. Bell is one of the exceptions because they have supreme talent. So I need a rusher. I need another cover guy. And the chemistry being in that locker room is only going to build. And they're not going to have as much noise surrounding the team because number 9 is going to be playing somewhere else.
Correct.
It can't be understated how big of an impact DeMarcus Ware had on Von Miller, being able not only to get out, but to stay out of the program. I expect them to continue on what they did. Because here's the thing, when a team makes this kind of decision, they have far more intimate knowledge than the general public, because they get an opportunity to see how Dak practices every single day. They see if he's the first in and the last to leave the building. They see how he conducts himself at practice. They see him in pressurized situations. It's one thing to watch it on television, but it's a totally different thing to be right next to that guy, Skip, and to see how he handles adverse situations. I believe he's checked all the boxes. This made the decision a lot easier for Jerry than Jerry would like to believe. Jerry was trying to pillage somebody out of a draft pick.
Yeah, no doubt. Which he should have been.
See, because I told him like this here. I already know the chair is broken. I saw you bought new furniture. You think I'm finna give you $50 for that rocking chair? You about to sit it at the curb. I can get it for free.
Yep.
And
put it at the curb, put a sign on it.
Exactly.
Help yourself.
But wait, that rocking chair can still rock, though.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If I rock too far back, I'm on the floor.
Yeah.
I'm on the floor. And the offensive line, it's the one unit where you have 5 guys, but they must play as one.
Sure.
All the other positions, I can get right. I can be selfish as I want to be. Those guys can't be selfish. You can't say, well, this is what I'm going to do. No. You got to be able to pass off stunts. You got to be able to see things before they even actually happen and know that guy next to you needs to know what you're thinking. They're solid. Go get you a pass rusher. What you cannot find in free agency, you go into the draft and get. You might have to trade some. You might have to move up to get who you want. But, Jerry, at this juncture of the game, if you have to give up your first-round pick maybe next year or your second-round pick to move up 5, 6, 7 places to get you a bona fide pass rusher.
That would be a good move.
Or a corner.
I would agree.
Go get him.
Yep. Which I believe he will do, which is why I believe my Dallas Cowboys will win next year's Super Bowl. They will beat New England in a town you know all too well, Minneapolis, and Super Bowl 52. I'm already going out on the limb with an early pick because I love clearing the decks, a little bit clearing the salary cap, but clearing the decks for Dak Prescott to mature into the star that I believe he is destined and driven to be. And you got to spend a little time around him at the Super Bowl.
Yes.
This is an impressive
He
young
checks the
man.
box. He checks the box when you meet him.
Oof.
Franchise, face of the franchise,
Face of the
CEO. He's exactly what you want in a young quarterback.
You will see him take complete control of this franchise. And you will see Jerry be able to, I'm with you. They could still win 10 or 11 as is. Rod Marinelli is really good at coaching overachievers. You know, like he gets them to be in the right place at the right time. They were 5th in points allowed last year, which is pretty good. But a lot of that came because Dak kept bing, 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 right?
It's a different ball game when you go from playing, say, 30 minutes a game to all of a sudden you playing 34, 36 minutes a game. And I can't base I hate anything saying if. Man, if Randy Gregory stays out the program, if DeLawrence, if he does this, if I got to know, I need to be able to know that I'm going into the game on Sunday, that everything's going to be okay.
Especially when that's the weakest part of your team.
Yeah.
You can't have that question mark there.
So
Go ahead.
Barry Church gone to Jacksonville. They're, I guess you'd say he's their best safety. They're not great at safety, but J.J. Wilcox is a free agent. I would like them to go get Darrell. I would. Again, on a make-good kind of contract, sort of a Romo-esque kind of contract.
He doesn't strike me as a guy that signs one of those.
I don't know. We'll see.
I'm just going to tell you, I'm never in love with any athlete, any sport who admits I wasn't in shape. Because you got one job as a professional athlete. Get your butt up in the morning and get in shape.
And the injury that he has wasn't on his legs. That can't stop him from running.
Well, obviously, he has an off-field issue he has to work through first. But I believe he is such a proud man. He has now been shamed publicly. There was the quote from the GM. What was it about?
He wouldn't sign it for free.
For free.
Right.
And now, whatever pride is still burning inside him, and again, I know Antonio Cromartie, who says there's huge pride burning inside him. Let's see if it would re-spark.
I do believe that. But at the end of the day, can Dallas's defense, you predicted them to go to the Super Bowl. We saw what Aaron Rodgers did to him. Can that team defensively stop Aaron Rodgers, Matty Ice, Eli Manning, or someone like that? Because that's what they have to do. You know, and we saw home field advantage wasn't enough for them. So we can't bank on them like New England or teams in the AFC that we have said, or Green Bay. If Green Bay get home field advantage, we know, you might as well chalk them up as being in the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Now, Dallas, can they do that with that defense not being dominant?
As you said, draft is deep in pass rushers and deep in corners. And I don't know who will fall to 28 or who you could draft up slightly to catch as he was falling. I don't know who they're in love with. I got 17 guys. I like Jabril Peppers, by the way, and I don't know if he's one of those tweeners where nobody's sure what he is. Maybe he would fall. I would take him in a heartbeat at 28. But my point is, you can get better. You can get better with mid-priced free agents. Jabal Sheard is free in New England. Like, he's good enough that maybe he would be a little better than what you have.
Right.
Just little pieces like that.
He's dependable.
Yeah.
The other two guys, DeLawrence and Gregory, I can't depend on them.
Yeah, and David Irving looked like he was going to become a star until Green Bay, and then he just disappeared.
One other suggestion for you. Dallas wants to move up in the first round there. There's two boys from Ohio State. Both of them can play.
One of them got hamstring
Safety.
issues. See?
He can flat play.
Oh.
He can flat play. He ran a 4.33 with a bad hamstring. He can flat play. 1 year as a starter, he can play.
No bias there, Chris.
And Malik Hooker.
We only been doing this for 100 years, Joey. I mean, it's not like
Stop plugging.
I'm not mad at it.
This all
I'm
we've
not mad
been
at it. I
doing.
like it.
Buckeye born and bred.
No mercy. We're joined now by the one and only Ice Cube. Welcome to Undisputed.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey,
What up, man?
Bad thing.
Good to see you, baby.
See you.
Good to see
honored
you.
to have you, man.
Hey, man. Come on now.
Absolutely. So how did that show come about?
You know, VH1, we had done a great thing in Chicago with VH1 when we was doing a barbershop, The Next Cut, and we did it was a town hall meeting, and we produced it with VH1, and it went great. And so they was like, yo, we got this hip hop squares we're trying to really shape up, and you know, you hip hop, do you want to come in and get down? So we went in, put our polish on it, and this is what we got. Shined it up, you know. And we came out with a great show. It's funny. You got all the characters you could think of on there, you know. And my man D. Ray Davis hosting the show. It's funny.
Yeah, who knew Kevin Costner
Good.
was from Compton? You also helped create the new Big 3-on-3 league featuring former NBA players.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
I'm excited about that. You know, just as a fan, I got tired of seeing guys I knew that still could play retire, and so I was like, well, why are they retiring? It's because of the format. It's that full court. That you got 82 games, back to backs, 3 games in 4 nights. Let's create a format where these guys can still show their skills. So we went half court, 3-on-3. I'm like, it's not a professional, league with guys that we know, and it just became a great idea, and it's snowballing into something real special.
Let's talk about the real NBA right now. Your Los Angeles Lakers. Magic is back to run the show again. How much hope does that give you as a Laker fan?
It gives me a lot of hope. Magic is a winner. He did a lot for the Dodgers.
He did.
And I just believe that he got that magic touch. And, we'll see. And it's good. I think right now they're just seeing, with the core that's left, the young 4 that's there, that's D'Angelo, Julius Randle, Jordan Clarkson, and Ingram. Just seeing what he got and who's going to step up and who's going to be there. And from there, we'll start stacking.
Think it's going to take a while? Are you impatient or somewhat patient with Magic?
I'm patient with Magic, because it's been a lot of years of going in, somewhat the wrong direction. So it's going to take a minute to turn that ship around and get it in the right direction. It's going to take a few years for these guys to attract a free agent. Don't see what you're playing with, and we'll give them. I'll give them 3 years.
Good.
Get it together.
You love the Lakers, but we know you really, really love the Raiders.
Yeah, I see you wore your your silver for me, man.
And it seems like they're heading to Vegas. How will the move affect the fan base? How will the move affect you?
Me, I have to fly to a game anyway. Either I fly to Oakland or Vegas. So, but it's just a shame. What I mean? It's a shame for Oakland. I think the NFL makes enough money to build stadiums and keep teams where they're supposed to be. So I just think something needs to be done. I think you're gonna have a cluster, in Southern California, and so it's just it's unfortunate, but I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the Raiders. Those guys, Mark is cool, and Jack, my man,
Jack Del Rio.
Jack Del Rio, and the whole squad is coming together. Reggie, the GM is great. So I'm looking forward to just seeing them make it to the Super Bowl finally.
If your quarterback had stayed upright, you might have made a little run.
Yeah, maybe, but it was just good to even see them in the playoffs, I was hoping for an 8-8 season,
Right.
Last year. So to see the Raiders go 12-4, it was great.
So let's talk about what you know best. Straight Outta Compton, the movie, a year and a half ago, took us all back and gave us, at least in my view, a deeper understanding of what it took NWA to break through and break out. And I'm curious what you think as you've watched hip-hop evolve from those early moments to now. Where is it gone, and where is it now, and where is it heading?
Well, hip-hop to me is ever evolving. It's never in one place. It's always, finding a way. It's like water. It runs through the path of least resistance. Right. So that's how I feel hip-hop is, and, these youngsters find a way. They're making hit records. I think the consciousness is coming back, with people, they don't want to just be fed escapism. They want some substance in their rap.
That's good.
And so I feel like that's creeping its way back into the genre. And so I just feel like, hip hop will always find a way, because you're always gonna have young kids that want to express themselves. And hip hop is a perfect vehicle for the youth to be heard.
Do you miss those days of breaking through with NWA?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun, it was fun being the underdog. It was fun to to be onto something that everybody else was so afraid of, and we were, basically saying, look, this is communication. This is basically
This is our life.
this is us trying to give you guys a piece of what we got to go through, and it's in a art form, but it's still a slice of life, and you shouldn't be afraid of it.
It changed the world, man.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And it changed a lot of people's perceptions and minds, and it to be honest, brought us closer together, and people thought hip hop was gonna tear us apart.
You talk about that, and in Straight Outta Compton, a lot of it focuses on early was the run-in and how the law treated African Americans in that community. You saw Colin Kaepernick with his protest. Let me ask you this. He made a statement that now that he will stand for the national anthem. What effect do you think it had, and do you think now that him taking a seat for the anthem will have any negative effect?
Well, I think if you're gonna take the stand, I'm getting words myself because it's not taking a stand. If you're gonna take a knee,
Right.
you got to stick with that. To me, to say the next season I'm gonna stand up. I basically made my point. It's a personal decision because I'm pretty sure he sacrificed a lot doing that.
Correct.
And so I guess he got to do what he got to do. But as a person who sit back and watch this unfold, it seems all for naught in a way. But I think he was bringing up some great points that need to be dealt with and we need to talk about. And I appreciate him for that, for bringing that to the table.
Right.
But you want to see him stick with what he felt.
How much have the relationships got any better between the time of you and the police and the African American communities and now? Have you seen any improvement in that relationship?
It's all subjective.
Not you, because you're different now.
Yeah. But I'm saying, I could say no, there's no improvement, but there has been a little bit. Right. Or I could say, yes, there's been a lot of improvement, but yesterday was probably an incident where a guy be like, Cube, I don't agree with you, man.
Right.
It was rough with me yesterday.
Right.
So I think it's a situation where it's a situation that the citizens and the police can't deal with. It's something that the country has to deal with. It's a blanket of entitlement. It's a blanket of people being pushed to the bottom, and that's tried to kind of be warped into the norm, and it's not, and it's unraveling, and so people really have to deal with the true raw issues of racism in not only America but in the world.
Can I ask I want to ask you this. You had one of the hottest, the hypest diss tracks ever. No Vaseline.
Yeah.
And you had Nas and Jay-Z going back with Super Ugly and Ether, and now you have Remy Ma. Remy came out and she just obliterated Nicki Minaj. What is the key to writing a good diss track, and do you think this one was pretty good, what Remy did on Nicki?
Oh yeah, it was without a doubt. I think you got to go for the jugular.
You going all in.
You can't play. You can't, kind of tiptoe around it. I think you got to go for the jugular because that's what people want to see.
Right.
That's what people want to hear. If y'all gonna get involved in it, and it's traditional hip hop. It's not like, I don't agree with dudes jumping in the ring and fighting. You know what I'm saying, and all that kind of stuff. What they had with talking about Chris Brown, and
Soulja Boy.
So just put it on wax, man. Let's show your skills and your art and show what you can do. And so I agree with that kind of battling.
Although, Shannon, you don't like black athletes going at black athletes,
no,
right?
No.
You don't?
The thing is like, I call it the crab syndrome because it seems like with the crabs in a bucket, and the crabs say, well, look, if you don't turn the bucket over and let us all get out, I'm going to pull you back down if you try to get out. I don't like when it seems like us as African Americans, we're more apt to attack one another, especially in sports. You see the bickering back and forth between Richard Sherman and Darrell Reeves. We saw this, I think it was a couple of wide receivers, Brandon Crooks going at Michael Thomas in New Orleans. Am I missing something? Am I seeing something that's not there?
No, you're not. You're seeing exactly what's there, and it goes back to our history in a lot of ways here in this country, but backbiting is not good on any level, on any race, backbiting each other. or any athletes backbiting each other. I think, speaking on another man's business, too much is out of line anyway, black, white, or the other. So, to me, it's really, you got to stay in your lane and know what you're talking about or keep your mouth shut. As far as, black people talking about black people, that's going to happen. That's going to happen because, we should check our own first, without a doubt, because that's what happens in our households, Mama gonna check you, daddy gonna check you, somebody gonna check you.
Correct.
So it's fine, but if it's malicious, if it's backbiting, if it's green with envy, it's no place for it, no matter what color it is.
Well said.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much for being here. We're all big
Thanks.
fans. Appreciate you coming by. And be sure to check out Hip Hop Squares Monday on VH1. Again, thanks for coming by. We hope you can join us again sometime soon.
Broncos gonna beat the brakes off the Raiders.
Are you crazy? Good way.
No mercy. Kawhi Leonard and the Spurs take their 9-game winning streak on the road tonight against Russell Westbrook and the Thunder. The odds have Russell Westbrook as the second choice for MVP, with Kawhi third. Both are behind James Harden. We're joined now by Chris Broussard. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you.
Hey,
Great
Chris.
to be here.
Skip, let me start with you. What shot do you give Kawhi to win MVP?
Not enough. Not enough of a shot, and I'll tell you why. This is obviously a huge week for Kawhi because he got to go head-to-head with Harden. He gets to go head-to-head with Westbrook tonight, and he gets to go head-to-head with Golden State at home on Saturday night. And obviously now that Westbrook's teammates have been struggling around Westbrook, that door has been cracked open for the MVP because obviously the other night, head-to-head with James Harden, Kawhi outscored him 17-4 in the fourth quarter while insisting on guarding James Harden. That was highly impressive. And I think he passed James Harden on that night because Houston has now lost 3 of its last 5, including last night at home to Utah as James Harden went 0 for 8 from 3. So I'm thinking he's starting to fade a little bit, just as Russell is starting to fade. So here comes Kawhi, who has one huge disadvantage up against James Harden or especially Russell Westbrook. He badly loses the battle of the brands. I'm talking about the off-court brands because Kawhi Leonard has no off-court brand. And Russell Westbrook, and well both of them, James and Russell have 2 of the biggest brands, growing brands in the NBA. Obviously, LeBron's at the top, Steph's somewhere up in there, but does
KD's in the mix.
KD's in the mix, I'll give you that. But does anybody have any better national TV commercials than Russell Westbrook?
I tell you, I love Harden's when he's like,
Well,
want me to
okay.
play defense?
Okay, good.
I mean, you know?
I'm with you.
But yeah, you're right.
Both of their brands are just skyrocketing because neither of those 2 guys, Russell or James, are what I would call stunning interviews. They're not great in interviews. They don't have that much to say.
Right.
But man, Russell, the Mountain Dew commercials or the Jordan Foot Locker commercials or whatever, True Religion, plus his wardrobe is so outrageous that it's either everybody either loves or hates his wardrobe, but everybody talks about both of them. That's true. Good point. So they have that going. Kawhi has nothing going for him. He does not like to be interviewed. He's rarely interviewed after a Spurs home game. It's rare that he will stand up and talk to anybody, even by his locker. He's just shy. He just doesn't like it.
He's the only brother in America still wearing cornrows.
Okay. Well, okay. All right. Touche. You got me. Yeah.
And that 1994 Blazer or whatever he's driving.
I know. Well, and it looked like a couple of years ago that Jordan Brand was going to release its Kawhi Leonard collection, and it just I don't know what happened, but it didn't happen. And now that nickname that he had, the Claw with a K, it just never really stuck or took off. It was trending the other night because the Spurs Nation just said, we got to, reignite this, the Claw. Because he is the Claw, because he's got the biggest hands, okay. But he's got no commercials. He is the silent assassin on the court. But silent assassin won't play off the court because it does nothing for you to fuel your brand. And I think in the end, it does hurt his sort of notoriety or his presence in the MVP race. He's just like unknown.
Well,
so people,
there's no question it hurts his public persona with fans, okay? If he had a colorful personality like LeBron or Steph, if he danced on the, he
Kyrie
would be as big as anybody.
Yes.
He would be as big as anybody. But here's the problem I have with your argument. The public doesn't vote for the awards. And I would like to believe, and I'll speak for myself, that we in the media who vote are more sophisticated and professional, or sophisticated and professional enough not to let that impact us.
Okay,
I voted for Steve Nash.
Okay, but I'll give
twice,
you that. But
or
I know
once.
some of the other voters who get caught up in brands. They do because they're human.
Dirk's won it. Dirk's never
a-
been this huge
a
brand.
long time ago.
Nash was never a huge brand. Derrick Rose won it in 2011. His personality is very similar to Kawhi's. He's a little more outspoken, but
But wait a second.
he's
Steve
very.
Nash was a great interview, and he had the long hair, and I don't know. He had.
So if you
cool
want to
him.
say interviews with the
Yeah,
media,
yeah.
that subconsciously,
Yes.
if a guy's nice to you, if he gives you great interviews, if he gives you great
It
posts,
helps.
maybe
Doesn't
maybe
hurt.
subconsciously. But I'll say this: I've got Kawhi right. I've got him slightly ahead of Westbrook right now.
Do you?
I have it as a 4-man race. LeBron's fourth. He's got the hardest hill to climb because his team's record just isn't that good for what they are. Yeah. They're going to win 55 games at this pace. They play the easiest schedule of the MVP candidates. I've got Kawhi and Harden battling for number one right now. It's close. It could change. It would be easier if Westbrook didn't average his triple-double. And he may not. I don't care if it's 9.9. That'll be enough to take him out of the race.
They're going to round it up like the NCAA did to that college guy.
No, we won't.
He
Because
was 29.9685.
Oh, it's
and the NBA and the NCAA rounded it up to 30.
Because Oscar averaged like 9.5 several years, rebounds,
9.7,
point assist or whatever. That's the only reason Russ is in it. And it's a good reason.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a hallowed mark and it's deserved. But 44-game pace right now, I don't know that that's enough. I still have Harden slightly ahead of Kawhi. And this is why I had to put Kawhi right up there. Most of the arguments I've made for Harden, I could make for Kawhi. Not a great supporting cast. Good, but not terrific. Not a bunch of stars around you. Here's the problem. Another argument, his team is overachieving, doing much better than people expected record-wise.
You're talking about Harden's.
Both of them.
Okay.
Harden and Kawhi. Here's why I have Harden slightly ahead, and I know the head-to-head matchup, he won the other night. Harden's numbers are eye-popping. Kawhi's aren't. 26 points is great, but 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 48% field goal.
Could be Defensive Player of the Year.
Defensively, obviously, he's much, it's not even close. But here's the other argument for Harden over Kawhi. They're 5-1, the Spurs, without Kawhi. 12-1 over 12-4 over the last 2 years. I know it's not a 2-year award, but it's Popovich, man. He might be the MVP.
And I think last night hurt Kawhi Leonard's chances. Because what other MVP guy in the candidate? If OKC gets down by 2 without Westbrook, they're not coming back. We've seen the Cavaliers lose with Kyrie and Kevin Love on the court without LeBron. They were down 28. What team gets down 28 at home without their best player and is able to come back?
And 2 best players.
This is what's going to hurt Kawhi. And I give you this, Skip. Russell shows up to the game dressed to impress. Look at me. Kawhi shows up to the game like he called a pizza order in and he's going to pick up the pizza. He got on sweats. He got a do-rags up tight. Hey,
he does not care.
He is who he is.
That's why he's perfect with the Spurs.
And
Duncan was the same way.
You are.
And if you think about it, Kawhi is 48% field goal, almost 49. Westbrook is 42. 38 to 33. But here's the thing. Kawhi has 2 turnovers per game. Russell is 5.5. He and James Harden is on pace to break George McGinnis' record with the most turnovers in the season. And so here's the thing. You talking about the triple-double. Even when Big O averaged a triple-double, he didn't win the award.
I think it was different. I mean, Will averaged 50 and 26.
Well, hold on.
It was second.
Elgin Baylor averaged 38 and 18.
That same year?
That same year. Bob Pettit averaged 31 and 18. Walt Bellamy averaged 31 and 19.
Okay.
Jerry West
Russell
37.
didn't even average 19 points.
Okay, but no player.
So who do you have right now?
I got Harden 1. Okay. I got Kawhi 2. I got LeBron. I got LeBron in front of Westbrook. That shooting percentage, I can't get down with.
But Iverson won the MVP award at 42% shooting. There's a part of me, I gotta admit, that if 44 wins is too low. But if he averages a triple-double, I just feel
and
like,
by the
man,
way,
you almost got a duty.
you got to
to
dismiss the
give it to him.
turnovers. He has the ball in his hands more than any player has ever in the history of this league had the ball in his hands. His usage rate is off the charts. He's going to shatter Kobe Bryant's all-time usage rate of what's the percentage of time you have the ball in your hands. And it's too much. I don't love it, but it's why he's able to average a triple-double, and I think he still will average a triple-double.
So do you still have Russ?
I do, barely over Kawhi.
You're just being stubborn.
No, I'm not, because it's true. You just said it. Triple-double? If he averages a triple-double, and is he still
doesn't matter at all?
Is he still averaging a triple-double?
So what is there a win like floor that or ceiling?
No,
like
he doesn't care.
If he wins 42, I mean the way they're dropping.
In this age, to average a triple-double would be astonishing to me, and it would be worthy of being an MVP because that team is not very good. And that team, while Westbrook is rising, I think the team is struggling and falling. They're just not very good. And by the way, the Spurs aren't a great basketball team except for that one guy. When that was Sacramento.
Aldridge is very good.
You know what? I'm not sold. I know too much. I know too much. He can defend.
He's still a very good
They
player.
tried to make it his team last year, and they failed miserably around that. And only this year did Kawhi finally come out of his shell and say, get out of my way and give me the basketball. First time he's ever done it. LaMarcus has become just a cog in the system, mostly on defense more than on offense.
He's still a very good player.
Well,
Skip he's got his warts.
Triple-double from Russell Westbrook and MVP before the season.
I did. I didn't.
That is
How I know she was
and you
going
can't knock.
Because you won't. We know
Tim
you
Duncan
won't.
became a style icon in his own way because of his lack of fashion. So
Like-
maybe that's
like a
the
dressed
direction that
down
Kawhi
icon?
is going.
Did you see how he showed up to get the MVP trophy? Tim Duncan had on some board shorts and a surfer shirt.
He does his
The
own
dress
thing.
code did not apply to the Spurs. Did you notice that? The dress code.
They do their own thing. No mercy. The Warriors lost by 13 at home to the Celtics last night. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson shot a combined 4 for 17 on three-pointers. The Warriors have now lost 3 of their last 5. Shannon, what did the loss last night mean for Golden State?
Skip, I want to be clear. I want to be crystal clear. I want to be abundantly clear. No KD, no jewelry.
Rob?
Ooh,
You going to
Rob
Rob?
Parker. All right.
That's what's going to happen.
Yep.
And we look, and I get it. The Golden State Warriors, they played so long without KD, but you've given up so much to get him, and you've integrated him in your offense. And so now you lose those 26 points. You lose those 8 to 9 boards a game, those 3 to 4 assists, and that block, because they're the number 1 block shot team. They're way up there. They're top 5, top 3 defensive team.
Yep.
And now you've taken that out of the equation. But a lot of this can be traced back to Draymond Green. Draymond Green is shooting 6% lower from the field. He's 6% from three-point lower than he was last year. So is Steph Curry. The only guy that really seems to be unaffected by this is Klay Thompson. He was 22.1 last year. He's 21.85 this year. He's a tick down in his field goal percentage, but everything else is pretty the same. Steph Curry is down almost 6 points in scoring. Draymond is way down. And plus the bench, Skip. Their bench is not consistent game in and game out. I think they got outscored 35-17 last night. Normally when Steph or the starters would go out, if they had a lead, the bench could maintain it. Or they could build upon it. Now, when they go out, Skip, they're getting outscored. Iguodala had a -15. Livingston had a -15. David West -13. This is not the David West that was in Indiana that was to go into the Eastern Conference Finals. He's not that guy anymore, Skip.
I learned that last year in San Antonio. Thank you very much.
And this is what's happening. It's putting so much stress on the starters on Steph. Steph only played 5 minutes in the fourth quarter?
Yep.
And he hasn't shot the ball well. Last year, he was a 50, 40, 90 guy. He's not even close to those numbers this year, Skip. And that has a lot to do with it. They're in trouble. And don't look now, but the San Antonio Spurs are coming.
Did you just say that? Those words just left your lips?
Skip.
We get that on tape?
The Spurs will be the number 1 seed. It's inevitable. Webster
Really? I
defined
don't know
inevitable
about that.
is that which is bound to occur.
I don't know.
That which is unavoidable.
I think you just doomed and jinxed them, but go ahead.
No. They're coming. They're coming. And the Warriors, KD needs to come back, and he needs to come back on fire. But we saw what happened when Steph missed that time last year. He seemingly never recaptured. Now, he could have his moments. had the glimpse. You know, he scored the 17 in overtime.
He did.
The 40 in Portland. And he can hit you up here or there. But KD needs to come back because the way they're playing right now and the way San Antonio is playing, boy, they believe now. Coach Popovich they believe. Not only are they the best team in the West, they believe they can win the whole ball of wax.
By the way, before I answer the original question, just remember what's going to happen to San Antonio. The reason I'm not sure they're going to catch Golden State
The only
is
game and a half back.
yeah,
Skip.
only a game back in the loss column
Yeah.
now. But they play each other at San Antonio this Saturday night. I think it might be the last hurrah for the Spurs as you know them right now, even though they rested Kawhi and LaMarcus last night. I believe they'll go full force through the game in Oklahoma City tonight and the game against Golden State on Saturday. And then you know what Pop does down the stretch? Everybody starts resting, and they start losing winnable games, even though last night was one of the more astonishing NBA games I have ever witnessed, because I know it was just Sacramento, who's been 1-5 since the Cousins trade. But when you fall behind by 28 with 4:24 left in the second quarter, you're down by 28 when Buddy Hield nails another three and Tyreek's on fire and Buddy Hield's on fire. And you say, no, in your house, Ginobili at 39 played the best game he's played in a couple of years. Patty Mills said no. David Lee said no. And you're right. That team says, we believe in ourselves. Even without our two best players, we're not going to let this happen in this house. And they did not. But now back to Golden State. Golden State proved once again last night they are vulnerable.
Very.
I watched this game. I didn't stay up to watch it, but I taped it, so I watched the fourth quarter early this morning, and I was stunned by what I saw because they roared back to tie the game at 8:30. 8:30 left in the fourth quarter. Golden State ties it on a beautiful Iguodala to Draymond feed, down the lane, boom. Steph's on the bench, as you said. He was resting at that point, and he's mugging to the crowd, doing this to everybody like, did you see what I saw? And I thought, oh, that's the end of that deal. I didn't even know the score yet. And at that point, Boston goes on a 17-3 run at Golden State. And in the fourth quarter, Golden State turns it over 8 times. Clay winds up 0 for 3. And as you said, Steph only played 5 minutes, but he goes 0 for 1 in the fourth quarter. So we're back to, wait a second, who's your closer? Who says no on that team? I'm not sure. Even when Kevin was there, when he was right, I'm not sure what the pecking order is in the fourth quarter because they're not sure. Who's going to close the deal? Who is your stopper? Who is the man who steps up at home and says, this is not going to happen to a Boston team that had just blown 2 games at Phoenix and at the Clippers? Really? Now, again, does Boston match up well with them? Because obviously, when you have Avery Bradley on the perimeter and you got Marcus Smart and you got Jay Crowder, man, they can body up and get tough in your face, nose-to-nose defense on the perimeter, and Al Horford's a really good defender in the paint. So I get that, but it still shouldn't happen like that. And it's happened way too often like that in that building because, remember, Houston beat them in overtime. Memphis just roared back. And what was it, from 24 down?
24 down.
Yeah.
But Skip, Boston played them well. Boston broke their longest
They did it
winning
last year. They won 109, 106.
Yes.
Yep.
And so, and Boston is Isaiah Thomas called his team out like we've been sloppy because
called his coach out.
And they beat Cleveland, and then they proceeded to lose like 4 of the next 5 ball games.
Yep.
This is a different Skip. They are in trouble, and I don't want to overreact. But this team, when you look at their body language, this is not that confident, brash, bravado team that when they step on the court, oh, we about to hang 120 on you. Catch us if you can.
Yep.
Steph is shooting the ball. Steph normally shoots the ball and just run down the court. Klay Thompson, you don't see that same confidence. I mean, Draymond was trying to get it going last night on a couple of those beautiful passes from Iggy, but he couldn't get him into that mindset where this team doesn't belong on the floor with us tonight. And Boston just kept coming. And that's the thing that you have to do with Golden State. You can't let them run in high, Skip. You got to make them play. If you make them play 4 quarters, you got to like your chances. And that's what Cleveland did last year. Cleveland said, look, if we can just win game 5, get the game 6, let's get the game 7. And if the game is not 20 points ahead going into the 4th or 15, we got a chance because that pressure starts to mount. Because normally they're out in the 4th quarter. They're resting, they're mugging, having a good old time on the sideline.
That is correct.
Drinking.
If you let them get get a big lead on you, they will just wipe you out.
And now all of a sudden,
Front running.
Steph Curry's pulling up
Yep.
from half court and they're going in.
They are.
Klay Thompson, as soon as the ball barely touches his hand, it's up and into the basket.
They can front run like crazy.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. So they're going to have to get this thing together. They need KD to come back. But what happened once KD went down, a lot of teams started circling. It's like, we got some chum in the water now because this team, without KD, they're not the same team. Yeah, they won 73 games without KD. Yes, they won 65 games without KD. But when you bring KD in, you get rid of Harrison Barnes, you get rid of Zealy, a Bogut, a Barbosa, a Brandon Rush. You've given up all your bench, all your depth.
Yep.
And
Key
now,
pieces.
and
Yep.
so now you got McCall into the lineup, Skip. You go from getting 26 points a night to McCall might give you 4. Now you're asking Iggy to come in earlier and play more minutes. You're asking Sean Livingston to come in and play more minutes. You're asking David West to play more minutes than he needs to be playing at his age when he's not even close to being that guy that he was in Indiana. Skip, I'm telling you, I understand that Pop loves to rest his guys. Spurs gonna catch him. Spurs
I hope
gonna
so.
catch him.
I'll take it.
It don't matter.
But the Spurs have the best road record in the NBA, so if it happens to have to be done at Golden State, then maybe they can do it at Golden State.
There's a guy that's up there by them Lake Erie somewhere, the king of Akron. Woo!
Are they still playing?
You watch him tonight.
Who they playing? Brooklyn
Detroit.
again? They play
Detroit.
Brooklyn like 17 times.
They don't play no Brooklyn
They do
17.
too.
No,
They play them every night.
First of all,
all
Skip.
at home. They play Brooklyn 17 times at home this
No, they
year.
beat
How'd
them.
they get that?
First of all, Skip,
Huh?
they're in the East.
Oh.
So don't you play everybody in the, at least
Oh,
4 times,
I'm not
2
sure
away
how
and
that
2 at
works.
home? Oh, you're not sure how that works, huh?
Final point. Kevin Durant did submit to doing his first little media session yesterday, and I had 2 takeaways from it. Number one, he tried to dismiss his injury as a boo-boo.
boo-boo.
I had a boo-boo, but he limped in, and the more he talked about his injury, the worse it sounded.
Yeah.
I thought it sounded pretty serious. And he said that night, that long night going into the next morning after the game in Washington, he thought he was really hurt, and it sounds like he was hurt a little worse than
they're letting
they
on.
let on. So I'm not sure. And then now we got the big question mark of when he comes back, how quickly can he get back in shape and in rhythm? I don't know.
Skip, them little legs he got. Just
I know,
get
they're
2
spindly.
toothpicks, put some tape around him, and let him go on out there.
Why are you talking about man's legs?
I'm just saying, he'll be if he can just come back, let's just say a week before the season ends. Because it's going to have to take his conditioning, Skip, because that's a whole different ball game now.
Get back into game speed.
Yep.
Well, Golden State only has a game and a half lead over the Spurs for the best record in the NBA. They play on Saturday, as Skip's mentioned, which will
So
be the
this
first
could-
meeting since the opening night loss by 29
So
points.
after this game, they could be in first place.
Maybe. No mercy. This is the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast, where we're delivering you an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the biggest topics of the day's show. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, like us on Facebook at Undisputed on FS1, follow on Twitter at Undisputed, and catch us at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, Monday through Friday on FS1. You can find us on channel 219 on DirecTV, 150 on Dish. Thanks for listening, everyone. I'm your host, Joy Taylor. We come back tomorrow for more Undisputed when we're joined by Chris Broussard, Rob Parker, and Chris Carter. Also a reminder, tomorrow is Friday, and every Friday we celebrate #DancePartyFriday. Make sure you check it out on my Instagram and Snapchat at Joy Taylor Talks, and we'd love to see you guys suggest a song. You can send your suggestions in on Twitter at Joy Taylor Talks, and a special shout out to Francis for the suggestion last week. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Fox Sports, one of one.